Let's talk toys.
What's up, you guys? ToyShiz here, and I got a really rockin' Invader review for you guys today. We are totally going to be checking out the, well, once brand new, this is the Invader Zim Palisades action figures that arrived on the set around the early 2000s, 2003, 4, somewhere in that time frame, and I've had these since they hit stores way back when. I used to have a friend over at Hot Topic, and she would call me all the time, be like, yo, you might want to get in here quick, got Invader Zim figures, and I was so very appreciative. I got to always show up and pick them right up out of the box. That was so much fun. So for her all those years ago, if you're watching, probably not, but thank you, because yes, I have all these Invader Zim action figures, and I just absolutely love them. And with the event of the brand new Invader Zim movie Enter the Florpus hitting Netflix on August 16th, I thought it might be fun to pull out my Invader Zim figures and really show them off, starting with Invader Zim himself from Series 1. And yes, for the price point way back when, I believe it was $14.99 per figure, you would get all of this: computer screens, accessories, wires, a big base, a backpack, stickers, everything, including an articulated action figure. Now, these particular figures, they're spot on. They're spot on to the character models. They couldn't have done a better job. But because they are an older type of figure, they are extremely brittle, and they were extremely brittle way back when. But that doesn't mean we can't have a good time, really show them off. I'm very excited. This is one of those series of figures. It was very limited. They only had a couple different waves. Most were Hot Topic exclusives. However, they mean a lot to me. I was absolutely obsessed with Invader Zim. I love the artwork of Jonan Vasquez. I like Johnny the Homicidal Maniac and all his artwork and everything he's done. And having these figures, just they display so well and they look so great. So I'm very happy to show them off to you. So let's start it off. This is the now defunct Palisades Toys Invader Zim Wave 1 Invader Zim. So one of the things the Invader Zim figures actually did really good is that they had a sort of build-a-figure. Now, for the first wave, they actually had more play sets than anything, and then subsequently, with later waves, they actually had the build the front of Zim's house, and that was in and of itself very cool. Then some of the other ones had build-a-bases. With this standard Invader Zim, you already got his computer, and it would come with several of these computer screens. And then what you could do is simply take these stickers. Now, I never used them, and actually, they fit very well within the actual screen, so you never really have to use them, but you could kind of just slip them in and they would stay pretty well, and you'd have a picture of Gurr, like from the opening of the cartoon, or you could have the germs, and all of these were so very cartoon accurate. You know, you got Dib when he was a little kid in one of the episodes, you got the evil angry monkey show.
That's horrible monkey.
Already having cartoon flashbacks, and then you had like the germs episode. I love that cartoon. It's so weird, it's so wonky, and these figures emulate that oh so well. Another packing accessory was Minimoose. And that is just amazing. From the sculpt and everything else, it's just, hey, you know what? That's a cartoon version, a 3D image of Minimoose come to life. He's got his little tooth, he's got his eyeball, he's got... And this thing floats. You know what I mean? I'm hoping Enter the Florpus kind of goes more into it. I haven't actually read the new comic books that they're doing for the show, but it's like a design. Like, he designed this thing. It doesn't really make any sense, and nor should it. It's just Minimoose, baby. So you don't got too much to worry about there. And then one of the other funny things is that his robot bee, and I love the face on this thing. It just looks so confused and terrified. But the detail that Palisades did was such... I mean, these things are tiny. These aren't like huge, big action figures. These are tiny little accessories. You got the stitches on its face, its mouth. It's got a little paint. So it goes from the leg. It's black to silver to the yellow again. And while they're not exactly like perfectly painted, I mean, for the most part, the eyes came out gloriously. I absolutely love the robot bee. If you didn't see that episode... My God, is it funny? And then, you know, you'd get a couple different other computer screens, and you'd have paint. You got red, you got grays and purples on the backside. These are all painted nicely. These were great, and they were straight out of the opening of the cartoon, which made them so spectacular. You also got an Erkin sandwich, you know, of course. The funny thing is, Invader Zim, they always stamp everything with that really great Irken label right there. God, I love it. And it's just a very angular, animated sort of style that they recreated perfectly with all these toys. Then on top of that, so you get these bendy wires that, and subsequently a lot of the figures all came with them. So you could add or subtract, you could add more wires, you could build out a giant base for Zim behind his actual Build-A-Base house. So that's pretty cool. So there's a lot of display options. And then back here, we're simply just little pegs that you would slip in along with the bendy wires to these various little ports right here. And I'll show you everything once we get going. Then on top of that, also packaged was his backpack. And if you didn't know, Invader Zim, his little backpack turns into like a spider type situation, which allows him to move around, gives him more of a creepy sort of atmosphere to it. And these are all jointed. You got 1, 2, and 3 right here. Up on top, you got these are all segmented. They move around as well. And like I said, because they're very old, they're very brittle. So you can't move them around too much anymore. But for the most part, they are awesome. But yes, here is Invader Zim himself. This is what you would call more of the blank stare Zim. This is the first one, but then subsequently they would release more Invader Zim figures, pretty much with the same exact body, but they would have a different head. So this is kind of just basic Zim. You know, he's just walking around, not much of a mouth, but I think it's executed perfectly. I love his antenna. I love his eyeballs. They're very reflective glass almost kind of things. It's got paint on there to give him his little pupil type situation. And then he did have some good articulation. One thing though, you could see the seams a lot of times, especially on the top of the head. And the paint, while not perfect, I mean, it's one thing that I let go because they were just so well done. You kind of overlooked it, but the paint definitely could have been better in some instances. And while it's not the same with every single figure, the Zim, especially with the pinks and then the lighter pinks, darker pinks, blacks and everything, it just shows up a lot more. But especially with the seam, that's a little bit jarring, I will say. But the articulation was at the arms, so they swiveled. Nothing, well, actually, I'm pretty sure his gloves, no, nothing at the gloves. And then he would rotate at the waist sort of legs. These legs didn't move, so he's just flat foot, but he did have peg holes on the bottom. And then he did have rotation at the head. But another great thing is that he comes with this giant computer base. And this, again, straight out of the cartoon, painted well. All the little dials and buttons and everything are painted great. A couple nicks here and there, but over the years, you know, that's expected to happen. You could port in the wires or anything else you want here, up top. The base is pretty much hollow. You got a big subsection right here, but it stands well. It displays him well, and there's a little peg right here for his foot, and you could put the wires coming out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you exactly how the backpack as fixes. So you basically just pull this off right here. So this is his little shell that would come off, and then you would replace it. And basically in the cartoon, his shell doesn't come off. It just pops out of his actual backpack. It's never really gone into exactly, at least in the cartoon, what his backpack is, but it's shown that all Irken children get them, and then it basically becomes like their personal assistant, or it's biologically linked into them. But yes, you get this awesome spider effect for Invader Zim. And again, that's straight out of the cartoon, the comic, everything. You could see it in the Enter the Florpus. Now, I think some of the design has changed over time. Sometimes just like all black legs. Sometimes it is this segmented with the different purples and such. But yeah, this is great. He becomes extremely back heavy, as you could imagine. And at some point, I do remember that you could put all the legs going down, and it would support him for the most part. But again, this Invader Zim figure is pretty heavy, so I'm not in the mood to break anything, especially this late in the game. But yeah, simply just reattach his backpack, and you got an Invader Zim ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build out this whole thing real fast, and so you get a better look at what they were going for. And then, of course, once you have it all built up, you can get a really cool, customizable computer station with all the wires and all the mechanics going off. And like I said, you could peel the stickers off and put them directly on the screens, but I like to kind of switch them out from time to time. And other characters came with more screen stickers, so you could kind of swap those out. One thing I would have liked to have seen is a little bit of a base for Minimoose. That would have been really cool to kind of have him floating up here, because he's always shown floating around for however the heck that thing works. I don't know, but I think that's hilarious. You can have him holding a sandwich, you can have the backpack on him, you can do whatever you'd like, but when you have the entire setup of Invader Zim and you got all the figures together, which we will eventually get to, it is something to behold, I will tell you. It's straight out of the cartoon. So if you can get your hands on any of these old Invader Zim figures, I highly recommend them. They do go for a pretty penny. I had no idea after all this time that, one, they were so rare, and two, they're going for crazy amounts of money, but they are very cool. It's probably better to get them in the packaging if you can, because if you want to open them up, just to make sure you get all the parts and pieces. There's a zillion parts and pieces for every single figure, so it's just important that you want to get every single one. So, I'm curious to know what you guys think about this Invader Zim figure, the Invader Zim line. Did you have any of the figures growing up, or do you have to get any now? Comment below, let me know. Let's talk all things Zim. Also, are you guys looking forward to the Enter the Florpus movie that, again, hits on Netflix on August 16th? I'm stupid excited for that movie, man. I've been waiting for it for a long time. They've had trailers, and they've had Comic-Con panels, and every little thing here and there. But finally, they're going to be releasing the dang thing, so I'm very excited, and I really like the new type of art style that they're doing. It's tight. You can show the evolution of the Invader Zim from what it went to on Nickelodeon now to a really tight-knit cartoon, and it's kind of being billed as the very last. Maybe it ends the season, but hopefully not. Maybe we'll get to see more Invader Zim if this particular movie does well. So, I'm going to leave you guys with that. As always, drink some great coffee, eat some great food, but most importantly, always remember that, hey, are the Mighty Tallest, are they just small Irkins inside big robotic suits? I've always wondered about that. I wonder if the movie will cover it. I bet they're lying. Somehow red and purple, they're lying. I'm just saying. What's your theory on that? And when you do, let me know what you found. I'll talk to you guys soon. Adios.